Now let's zoom out and look at how other countries around the world are handling the food dye issue, because the international comparison really highlights how much of an outlier the United States has become on this topic. And it raises some uncomfortable questions about why American children are being treated so differently. In the European Union, products containing certain artificial colors, specifically sunset yellow, quinoline yellow, carmazine, allura red, tartrazine, and ponzo 4R, must carry a warning label stating, may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. This requirement went into effect back in 2010 following review of the evidence on behavioral effects. Now, you might think that warning label would be the kiss of death for products, and in many ways it has been. Rather than carry that warning and spook parents, most major food manufacturers reformulated their European products to use natural colors instead. So the same cereal or candy that contains red 40 and yellow 5 in the US is made with paprika extract and beet juice in the UK. The product looks almost identical, tastes the same, and sells fine. This proves beyond any doubt that reformulation is technically and economically feasible. The companies can do it when they have to. Beyond the EU, other jurisdictions have taken various approaches. Norway and Iceland have banned certain artificial colors outright. Australia and New Zealand require specific warning statements. Canada allows the colors, but with stricter purity standards and more extensive safety review requirements. Japan restricts some dyes that are permitted in the US. Regulatory experts I've interviewed explain that different countries apply different versions of the precautionary principle. European food policy tends to place more emphasis on preventing potential harm even when scientific certainty is incomplete, while US policy has traditionally required stronger proof of harm before restricting approved substances. Neither approach is inherently right or wrong. They reflect different cultural and political values about risk management. But here's the thing, we're talking about optional cosmetic additives in food, not essential medicines or nutrients. The risk-benefit calculation seems pretty straightforward. The benefits are purely aesthetic and commercial, making food more visually appealing to increase sales. The risks, even if we're not completely certain about magnitude, involve potential effects on children's neurodevelopment and behavior. When you frame it that way, the precautionary approach makes a lot of sense. The implications for transnational brands are significant. Companies like Nestle, Kraft, Kellogg's, and Mars operate globally and have demonstrated they can produce the same products with different formulations for different markets. This dual standard means they've essentially admitted that artificial colors aren't necessary for product quality or appeal. They're just cheaper and easier in markets where they're allowed. Case studies of product reformulation in Europe show that after initial consumer concern about products looking different, acceptance was high and sales remained strong. Parents appreciated the cleaner labels, and kids adapted quickly to foods that looked a bit less neon. This completely undermines industry arguments in the US that consumers won't accept naturally colored products. European consumers did, and American consumers would too if given the option. Policy comparison charts make the contrast stark. The US stands with a relatively small number of countries in allowing widespread use of these dyes without warnings or significant restrictions. Most developed nations have moved toward greater caution. This international regulatory trend should inform American policy, but so far it hasn't due to industry lobbying and regulatory inertia. The global snapshot reveals that protecting children from potentially harmful food additives is entirely feasible. Other countries have done it without destroying their food industries or eliminating consumer choice. The question is why the United States continues to lag behind when we have the same scientific evidence available and our children are just as vulnerable as children anywhere else in the world.